today's clipping, let's try and understand behavior of the averages. The average variable cost, the average fixed cost and the average cost of production. Right? In the previous clipping, as part of the short run, you have already understood the behavior of the total cost, the total fixed cost and the total variable cost. So, today we will move on and check out the behavior of the average variable cost, average fixed cost and the average cost. Yes. So, let me write down the known identity. Total cost can be understood as the summation of the total variable cost and the total fixed cost. Yes? Now, average cost of production is nothing but the per unit cost of production, right? So, AC is nothing but the TC divided by Q, right? Average cost is the per unit cost of production, or it can be understood as TC by Q, right? So, the average variable cost, come on, I think it's very apparent from the known identity now and from this derivation, isn't it? Average variable cost can be understood as the per unit variable cost of production, or it is TDC by Q, right? Then the average fixed cost, can be understood as the per unit fixed cost of production, or it is TFC by Q. So, if TC can be summed up as the TVC plus the TFC, then AC can very well be understood as the per unit variable cost plus the per unit fixed cost of production. Right? Let me repeat. The per unit cost of production can be understood as the per unit variable cost plus the per unit fixed cost of production. Yes? Right? Okay. Now, how does the average cost behave in the short run? We would move on to understand the concept of average cost, average variable cost and the average fixed cost through a schedule. Right? So, let's start from the known, then move on to the unknown. Yes? Right. Now, the number of units of production, as the output increases, you know that the total variable cost will increase at a decreasing rate and then it will increase at an increasing rate. Fine? And the total fixed cost will remain fixed at all the levels of output. Right? So, from these two, you can arrive at the total cost, which is nothing but the aggregation of the total variable cost and the total fixed cost, or TC is TVC plus TFC. Right? Now, we would move on to understand the per unit variable cost, which can be calculated as the TVC by Q. Yes? Then, the per unit fixed cost, which can be understood as the per unit fixed cost of production. Right? And as a summation of the per unit variable cost and the per unit fixed cost, we will understand the average cost. So, AC can be understood as ABC plus AFC. Also, it can be understood as TC by Q. Alright. So, this is what we are going to see through the schedule. Now, these four columns, these initial four columns, by now you should be thorough with that. Nevertheless, we will see that once more. Right? So, let's start with 0 level of output. We know that the total variable cost will be 0 and the total fixed cost will be some positive amount. And because of that, the total cost will also be a fixed amount. Fine? Right? What about the average variable cost? Average variable cost will be TBC by Q. So 0 by 0. So that will be 0. Fine? What about the average fixed cost? That will be the total fixed cost divided by the level of output. So 10 by 0. So let's say that will be infinity. Right? Okay. So then the average cost will be summation of the average variable cost plus this. Fine? Right. Then moving on to the level of output, even as the first unit of output is going to be produced, you know that the total variable cost will start increasing, or the firm will start incurring the variable cost. So if it's going to be 10 units, the total fixed cost will remain the same and the total cost will be 10 plus 10, so that will be 20. Fine, so let's fill up these 4 columns and then we will move on subsequently to the behavior of the averages, shall we? Now, second unit of output, let us say the increase is going to be by 8, so that's going to be 18, and this is going to remain constant and this is going to be 28. Then to attain the next level of output, the total variable cost, let's say, is going to increase by 5 and say that's going to be 23. Alright, so this fixed cost will remain fixed. So 23 plus 10, so that's going to be 33. Fine. Then the next level of output, let's say there is going to be a constant rate at which the TDC is increasing. Fine. So that will be 32. Fine. And this is going to remain 10. Now what about this? 32 plus 10, that will be 42. Yes. Then the fifth level of output. At the fifth level of output, let us say now the total variable cost is going to increase at an increasing rate. Why? Maybe the firm has started enjoying, or rather has suffering decreasing returns, negative returns. Right? Decreasing, after that negative returns is going to set in. Right? So the total variable cost is going to increase by 10 and this is going to be 42. What about this? Fixed cost still remains fixed. As a result of this, the total cost will be 42 plus 10 and that will be 52. And let's say the next increase is going to be by 20, even as the output is going to increase on to the next level. Yes, so 42 plus 20, that's going to be 62. And what about fixed cost? That's going to be the same, 10. So 62 plus 10, that's going to be 72. So this is very much the behavior of the TBC, TFC and TC. How is this going to affect the averages? Averages are after all derived from these totals, isn't it? Right? Now ABC, we have understood that to be TBC by Q. Right? And AFC is TFC by Q and AC is combination of ABC and AFC, or it is understood as TC by Q. So the way in which these variables are going to change will affect very much the behavior of these cost curves. Right? So let's just move on to check out how the average variable cost changes. So when the output level is 1, the total variable cost is 10. So the average variable cost will be 10 by 1. That will be equal to 10. Then output is going to increase the next level 2 and the TVC is 18. So this is going to be 18 by 2, that's going to be 9. Right? So then when the output is going to increase to the third, what do we see? The average variable cost will become 23 by 3. So that will be 7.5. 3, isn't it? So what do we see here? It's continuously falling. The ABC is continuously falling. Then the output is going to increase to the next level 4, where the PVC is 32. So this is going to be 32 divided by 4, right? So that is going to be, yes, 32 divided by 4, that is going to be 8. So you see that there is an increase in the average variable cost. It has fallen and then it increases. Let's check out the next level. That is going to be 42 by 5, right? So that is going to be 8.5. Yes? Then the next level is going to be 62 by 6, right? 62 by 6. Look at the last one. 62 divided by 6, and that would be 10 point. Yes, what do we see? It's increasing. The average variable cost is continuously falling and then it is going to increase. I want you to recollect the behavior of the average cost from the previous clipping. You have understood that both the marginal as well as the average cost, they fall and then they increase. Same is the case with the average variable cost. The average variable cost, it is falling and then it is going to increase. Yes? So let's try and show this through a diagram. So we are going to have the cost here and then we are going to have the level of output out here along the x-axis. The cost is measured along the y-axis and the level of output is measured along the x-axis. Average variable cost, it is falling and then it starts to increase, right? So if you show the curve, then the average variable cost curve, the ABC, it falls and then it increases. Alright, let's check out how the other two cost curves are going to behave. Coming back to the schedule, AFC can be understood as TFC by Q. And you know that the total fixed cost remains constant at all the levels of output, remains only 10. Immaterial of whether the output is 0 or 1, 2, 3, whatever it is, the total fixed cost remains the same, isn't it? So that will be reflected in the behavior of the average fixed cost. See, the numerator is going to be a fixed amount and then the denominator is going to keep increasing. Come on. AFC as a result will continuously fall. The average fixed cost curve will continuously show a decline or the AFC will continuously fall, right? Okay. So initially when the first level of output is produced, the total fixed cost is 10, right? So that's going to be 10 by 1. So that is 10 and then the next level 10 by 2, that is going to be 5 and then 10 by 3, that is going to be 3.3, right? And then 10 by 4, right? So that is going to be 2.5 and then 10 by 5, that is going to be 2 and then what's going to be the next one? 10 by 6, right? 10 by 6, that will be, what will that be? 10 by 6 will be 1.2, is it? Right. So what do we understand? Continuously the average fixed cost will fall because the numerator is going to remain fixed and the denominator is going to increase. 10, that is what you see at all the levels of output, right? And output alone keeps increasing. So as a result of that, we see that the average fixed cost curve or the AFC is going to be continuously falling. And one more specialty of this AFC is that it would be a rectangular hyperbola, right? So rectangular hyperbola, The rectangular area under the curve will be the same. Now take up any 2 points. Fine. So take up this point on this curve. Okay, the rectangular space out here, and then maybe you take up this one. Right. So the rectangular area under these two will be the same. Fine. Right. Now, though the average fixed cost continuously falls, there is no chance that the AFC will become 0 at any particular point. Why? Because the total fixed cost, it remains positive throughout. Even at 0 level of output, what have you understood? Even at 0 level of output, the total fixed cost is some positive amount, isn't it? Yeah. And then as production increases 1, 2, 3, 4, the total fixed cost remains the same. So it's some positive amount at all the points of production. So though the AFC continuously falls, there is no chance for the AFC to touch the x-axis. It will not become 0, nor will it become negative. Fine? Yes? So look at this one. Look at this curve. The AFC continuously falls and then it sort of becomes stable out there. Never touches the x-axis, meaning it doesn't become 0 at any point. Fine? So that's the behavior of the average fixed cost curve. AFC is TFC by Q, and since the TFC is some positive amount, and as the Q increases, the average fixed cost will continuously fall but will never become 0. What about the average variable cost? The average variable cost initially will fall and then it will increase. Why is that so? ABC is nothing but TVC divided by Q. Right? And TVC, you know that initially it will increase at a decreasing rate. Later on, it will increase at an increasing rate. Fine? Due to the operation of the law of variable proportions, the total variable cost will increase at a decreasing rate and then increase at an increasing rate. It's exactly due to that reason that the average variable cost will initially fall and then it will increase. While the firm, see this portion of the increasing portion of the average variable cost will indicate that the firm is suffering a decreasing returns and a negative returns. And this portion, right, the falling part of the ABC will indicate that the firm is actually enjoying the increasing returns phase, right? Okay. Now, what about the average cost? Average cost is going to be the summation of the average variable cost and the average fixed cost. Fine. So, we have the details here. So, we can just sum it up. Fine. So, when the level of output is 1, the average cost or the per unit cost of production is going to be the per unit variable cost plus the per unit fixed cost. So that's going to be 10 plus 10, that is 20, and then at the next level it is going to be 9 plus 5, so that's going to be 14, right? And then the next level, right? So that's going to be 10.6, fine? And then the next level, that's going to be 10.5, right? And then the next level is going to be 10.7, right? And then the next level it is going to be 11.6. So what do you see here? The average cost initially it is falling, right? And then it is increasing. Fine? The average cost, it falls and then it increases. So, if you are going to try and plot this information in the diagram, the average cost curve will take up the shape of a U-shaped curve. Initially, the average cost will be falling. So, this falling portion of the average cost will indicate that the firm is enjoying increasing returns. So with very little variable inputs, the required output will be attained. Production might be happening very, very efficiently. So the per unit cost of production is actually falling. Right? Till when? Till the optimum output is going to be attained. Right? So let's understand that this OQ level, right? This OQ level is probably the optimum output level, where ideally the AC is going to be at the minimum. Fine? The average cost is going to be minimum, right? And this level of output OQ is going to be the optimum level of output without straining the fixed factors with a minimum cost, with a minimum per unit cost. Production is undertaken. After this optimum output, to maximize the output, if the firm is going to work, that's very much possible, but then that comes only with additional costs. Right? Overutilization of the fixed factor, crossing that optimum output. Yeah, maximum output is possible, but then the cost will shoot up. So that indicates that the firm is suffering probably a decreasing returns, or shortly negative returns is going to set in. Fine. So the average cost, it starts increasing after attaining the optimum level of output. The minimum level of AC will indicate that the firm has attained the optimum level of output. The ideal ratio of the fixed input and the variable input has crossed. After that, AC will start increasing. Fine, right? So AC, it falls due to increasing returns to factor. AC, it starts increasing due to decreasing returns to factor. Fine? AC ultimately will look like a U-shaped curve. It will become optimum, minimum, and then it will increase. Fine? And look at the curves. AC curve lies right on top. Lies right on top. It will look like that only, isn't it? Why? After all, it's a combination of ABC and AFC. Fine? It's a combination of the average variable cost as well as the average fixed cost, isn't it? Then, at all the levels of output, looking at the curve, what do you understand? At all the levels of output, the AC will be a combination of these two, and also this vertical distance between the AC and the ABC will be nothing but the AFC. Right? The vertical distance between the AC and the ABC will be very much the average fixed cost. What am I trying to tell you? I am trying to say AC minus ABC is nothing but the AFC. That's what this distance means, isn't it? Yes? So look at that distance. Look at that distance. Can you see that? Can you see that? Initially, it is the distance between the two is wide. As the output increases, you see that the gap is getting much smaller and smaller. Fine. On to the left, while both the costs are falling, the distance, the vertical distance between the average cost curve and the average variable cost curve is much wider. But then as the output increases, even as more and more output is going to be produced. Fine. The distance between the AC and the ABC is going to shrink. Right? That indicates the continuous fall in the AFC. Difference between AC and ABC is nothing but the AFC. So, the distance, the vertical distance between AC and ABC is going to shrink, indicating a continuous fall in the average fixed cost. Right? So, this is the average cost, average variable cost, and the average fixed cost concept as understood in the short run. The schedule and then the diagram is given to you. So, these costs, even as the entrepreneur is going to inquire upon the behavior of these costs in the short run, you will be able to decide whether it's worthwhile to continue on production, whether the output that is produced is worth investing, right? So, we will try and understand the behavior of the additional cost of production or the marginal cost with reference to the total cost and also the total variable cost in the next clipping. So, here today we have discussed the behavior of the averages, the ABC, the AFC and also the AC as part and parcel of the short run production function. Yes, namaste.